You're listening to a main feed episode. Go to patreon.com/Celtic Lagers where €5 a month gets you weekly full-length episodes, stray bonus content and access to the back catalogue. Also helps cover hosting and gives us money for sweeties. Thank you. Celtic Lagers.
Recorded 26th of October 2024. 15 years ago tonight.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because we'd started talking about recording and then I didn't record for a few minutes and then I was like, oh shit, I probably should.
No, I completely blanked on it as well. I was just enjoying the banter.
Yeah, man.
The top banter, as they say here in the UK, where both Jack and I currently are.
Yeah, the UK. That's right. The UK, all the places in the UK, the 6 counties. Yeah. No, it's, I'm honestly, I'm rusty on the anti-Irish comedy. It's just such an obsession with the Welsh for me that I just have never really thought. And of course I've got. I'm like basically half Irish myself. My dad was born here, but both his parents were Irish, although actually they were Northern Irish Protestants. So that's not...
Well, we won't hold it against you.
Yeah, it's not quite my politically... like, my mum and dad went to a wedding in Northern Ireland recently of like a cousin who they didn't know very well or anything, but it was like, on the good side, it was an Oasis-themed wedding. So there was, they had like an Oasis tribute band playing and shit. Like apparently this couple love Oasis so much. On the downside, apparently like in that area of, I forget where it is, like, let's just say somewhere in the 6 miles between Bangor and Donaghadee. Like apparently there were shitloads of Israel flags just everywhere. There'd be like a Union Jack and an Israel flag. So that's like my Irish heritage. It's like, might as well be Israeli heritage, if there's such a thing.
No, yeah, it is weird. That's one thing about unionists that I don't like. It's such a hate-filled culture. It'll just be like, no, I like this because you hate it, and that's it.
Yes.
And, I'll burn everything in effigy that you like, even if it's like Nelson Mandela. I was actually saying that, like, maybe I said this on a previous podcast, but it was a thought that I had and I tweeted out, which was Israeli culture is basically like unionism, but like mixed with the Democratic Party in the UK, in the US.
Oh yeah, that kind of happy clappy, sort of superficially woke kind of bullshit. Like my lived experience is that a bulldozer is really difficult to operate. There's lots of controls and mechanisms, and yeah. That's why I was really traumatized by that, actually. Yeah. That was, I couldn't figure out how to work the gears. That was mental in that article where it was just like, such and such. I was incredibly traumatized by all this, blah, blah, blah. Such and such told me from his bulldozer. Literally, like, just wanton destruction.
I also found it funny that he was like, yeah, he's in the IDF, he's in the bulldozer division. I was like, is that a thing? Like in most militaries?
They got the bulldozer division, the division where you go in and retrieve the cum from the dicks of the dead soldiers with the cum hoover.
Yes, sir. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Joining us on the podcast today is Jack Frayne-Reid. Do I have that correct?
You
Please
do have that
yes.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
It's Frayne-Reid. That's how you pronounce it.
Now that sounds really bad that I didn't know that, but it's because I'm just used to seeing Jack F.R. Okay?
Yeah.
So
like my hero, Louis C.K. I go for the initials.
Who host of Reel Politik, one of my all-time favorite podcasts. So what is Reel Politik for anybody on this listening to this show who hasn't heard about it?
Well, it's the British Chapo, as Google will tell you. No, I don't. I think it probably says that about a different podcast now, which isn't even really British. We're we are a podcast that makes funny jokes from the United Kingdom. we used to try and do a bit more of the serious left wing, hey, we're gonna break this shit down to you analysis kind of thing. But I've sort of lost interest in that. Keir Starmer has crushed my spirit to such an extent that I just want to call him a cunt all the time. I don't want to do anything kind of. Well,
I thank you very much for that impulse. Because I really do need it.
Yeah, like I kind of lost my heart for a bit. Starmer had made politics just so shit. But then something about him winning the election, and it just reinvigorated me. And now I've just got this newfound love for calling him a cunt and bringing to other people's attention what a cunt he is. By which I mean the same sort of cult audience that we've probably had for like the last 7 years or whatever. I'm saying that though, my next episode will be a quote-unquote more serious one. I'm interviewing an author about his book. I don't know, it's Toby Manning, about his Marxist analysis of culture and music, popular music. That's the phrase I was searching for. Really good book, and I'm really looking forward to talking about that. But that's because it's music. I always give a shit about music. I fucking love rock and roll, but I'm, if you've written a book about political theory, try and find a different podcast to talk about it, because I don't have the equipment mentally.
Although, they're putting in the hours as well, because I mean, this is for sickos like me. I don't know how many people in Ireland will know about Change UK.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But the Change I don't know what you call it. They wrote a book. So this was like a bunch of Labour Party people and a bunch of Tories decided, like, we're going to basically go off and form our own party, and then it ate shit and then died, and then they wrote a book about it. And then you've read the whole fucking thing, and you recorded hours of content about this book. And all the weird sickos that could get over their differences, of which there are very little, to form a party.
I'd like to clarify as well, we're not talking about Ulysses here. We're not talking about War and Peace or Infinite Jest. This is a very slim volume. This is a little self-published book. It's a kind of glorified pamphlet published by one of the Change UK MPs, Anne Coffey, according to the copyright page, but for some reason apparently edited by someone called Peter McNabb, who I can find no evidence of the existence of. So I think basically it's fairly safe to assume is Anne Coffey. You've got some very funny named MPs. You've got, obviously, Can I Have Anne Coffey? And then you've got Mike Gapes, my favourite of our podcast.
You did mention Mike Gapes already, and we forgot to elaborate that Mike Gapes, I mean, sorry to be like this, but it is like a running thing
there are
on the
people
show.
who don't know who Mike Gapes is. This is insane. My world is destroyed.
Well, did you get that thing as well? I sent it on a DM to the Reel Politik Twitter, but like I was listening to like Navarra, and then at one point like Aaron Bastani was going like, "You need only look at Mike Gapes," and I was like ears perked up. I'm like sitting up. He said it.
In any context, you need only look at Mike Gapes. Just sit there staring at a photo of him, and you'll discover the secrets of the universe. But yeah, you're right. We did. So recently, inspired by Neil Young, I've been doing an RP archive series where I get some of our old shit back out there, and maybe it was split into 2 parts initially, and I can get it all into one very long part. With this one, it was basically, so we'd gone on our friend Sinan Coe's stream to review the Change UK book, and that went on for fucking, I don't know, 4 hours or some shit, and then we barely got to the bit where they actually formed the party, so we were like, right, better reconvene on Reel Politik in a week or 2, and then so we did another like 3 hours or so on it, and then I split that into a main episode and a bonus episode, and now all 3 of them are together in one 7-hour package of pure sicko shit. For anyone who wants to,
like, it's like you just crack that on and you just start drifting off to the sounds of
me doing a Mike Gapes voice.
Party ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the my favorite details about it was that they tried to get a hashtag put in the name of the party or something.
Yeah. They couldn't do that. The Electoral Commission were like, no, you can't do that. And then Change.org sued them for being called Change UK. So they had to call themselves that's why they ended up being called Change UK, the independent group. Like both their names that they tried before ended up being their name.
And I remember at the time, I mean, this was kind of like, all fire directed at Corbyn. We need to take out this fucking guy. And that I remember that they went and visited Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
I remember that was a fixture that happened like back in the day.
That was so funny. Yeah.
To keep this at a manageable length, Gar did some blood-curdling editing for this very spooky episode. Here we rejoin the boys talking about UK Labour versus Irish Labour, which is like Freddy versus Jason.
But yeah, famously, just like they basically have been kind of a left-wing part. Like, this is where my heart is racing, because if James were here, he'd be much better equipped for this. But to my knowledge, they are like we're a left-wing party that basically propped up a number of the most conservative governments going. So they're kind of like the Lib Dems, essentially. Yeah. Okay. Well, no, they're not. I don't think the Lib Dems aren't like left-wing or anything.
No, they're not. Yeah, I kind of...
No.
I was just going along with it. I didn't want to correct... As someone who spent a lot of time looking into stupid Lib Dem bullshit to research an epic radio play about Tim Farron... not a left-wing party.
No. I mean, it's more that, like, I just remember... because it's me from the outside looking in a little bit at British politics, was that they made the obvious thing, which is that they said that they wouldn't raise student fees, and then they went into coalition, and then they did raise student fees.
Yeah.
But it was like that with Labour, where Labour went into government with Fine Gael and basically enacted austerity. And famously, the water protests, their leader at that time, I don't know if she was the leader at the time, Joan Burton, became kind of like just a real horrible... She was a real horrible person anyway, but like there was a thing called the Jobstown protests where they were going to introduce water charges, essentially privatize water in Ireland, and obviously people objected. And it was Labour's kind of, were tasked with sort of bringing in the privatization. So she went out to her constituency, a bunch of people went out to protest her, and then she claimed that she was trapped in a car for an hour. And then as a result, there was something called the Dawn Raids, where they basically just busted down the door of a bunch of people who were there, put them on trial, and then found out that the guards, the cops, lied, and she could have backed out. She could have left at any particular time. The case was thrown out, and all the protesters were vindicated. And in a rare W, there was such low compliance for the water charges that they actually scrapped them. So, but the
nice.
The press here has had a very concerted effort to make sure that that's not how that's remembered.
Right.
How it's remembered now is like, do you remember when they trapped Joan Burton in a car?
Well,
Jesus.
That, I was trapped in my car for an hour thing, that is very Labour MP or Labour candidate, rather, I should say, not
absolutely.
MP Ashworth in the 2024 UK general election, because they were all about, remember John Ashworth telling that story about how he had to hide in a mosque, or I don't know, then they kicked him out of a mosque because they were all jihadists or whatever, and so he hid in a church instead. I think that was it. He got kicked, they didn't let him in a mosque, so he hid in a church. That's the kind of definitely not inflaming the culture wars kind of campaigning that John Ashworth won back his seat in Leicester. Wait, what? You're telling me he oh my god.
Yes.
But he's been on TV so much. You totally assume that well, no, he's got the time.
So for anybody who doesn't know, Jonathan Ashworth ran in the last general election, and I think he was in the shadow cabinet as well, wasn't he?
He was like shadow paymaster general. So, he was much more loyal to Starmer than he was to Corbyn, but under Corbyn he would have literally had the NHS, which is just an example of these right-wing Labour careerist shitheads shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah. I also loved that he I saw an interview. I watched Navarra. I'm sorry. Okay.
Hey, don't apologize to me, man. I watch like fucking Opie and Anthony clips on YouTube. I watch evil things. So.
Bastani was interviewing Corbyn, and then he goes, "Yeah, so Jonathan Ashworth has been saying such and such about you recently," and then Corbyn just goes, "Oh yeah, where's he at now? What's happening there?"
John Ashworth. Prior to the 2019, how is he? Well, that's a good point. He's got a new job, hasn't he? That was awfully quick.
Yeah, he's like, he didn't say that stuff when he was working for me. Very interesting. Yeah. No, I mean, no, you're absolutely right. Ashworth was just total shithead. And
I actually did have him on the document here.
I had him on the show. He was our best guest. Yeah, well, he'd probably do it, wouldn't he? He does the fucking media enough. Just tell him it's LBC or something.
Yeah. Just for Irish listeners, he lost his seat, and then he has been on literally every single day on British TV. Whatever is going on, Ashworth is there. Like, he hasn't lost. He was also talking about how I was bullied at there was some tweet, wasn't it? Joe UK put up like a series of tweets where they were like, a lot of maybe it was an article as well, but they were like, politicians have been complaining that about the pro-Palestine people just hounding them and bullying them, and how maybe people wouldn't even want to go into public office. And I was like, well, who's your sources on that? I was like, well, a lot of them would prefer not to be named, but one of them is Jonathan Ashworth. And then it was just like, yeah, of course it fucking is. And then he said,
look, it's true. All the online abuse from Palestine supporters really prevented a lot of us from campaigning properly in the general election. I mean, I was spending so much time doing it that I just didn't have the time to go out and campaign.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and then anyway, he's, there's always that wink, wink, nudge, nudge implication from, like you mentioned there with I went into the mosque and then they kicked me out and I went to the church. And then it was like, what are you trying to say? I'm not saying anything.
I went to the church and a fucking angelic ray of light shone down on me. And I heard a voice saying, "Jonathan, you are safe now." And it's kind of like the illegitimate candidate who now sits in my fucking seat who bullied me, and then you're like, do you not think that the election was fairly won? I mean, they counted the votes. It's fine. It's fair. I'm just saying, we have to think about the bullying and all that stuff that goes on, So Ashworth is now he's not. They have not stopped putting him on the TV. He's all over the place. But then also, they set Jonathan Ashworth up in a nice, cushy, what would you call it? Think tank? Labour? Something? Yeah, it's, I think it's the one that Morgan McSweeney, another great Irishman, founded.
Now I have that. Yeah, amazing. I'm very excited to talk about that. So,
it's Labour Together, basically. So this was the organisation through which the Labour right funneled a lot of their funds from fucking Lord Arley or Gary Loudner or whoever during the Corbyn years. So, they'd... I'm just not going to talk about the allocation of finances and so forth. I feel like I'm going to get into dicey areas there, but the stuff I just said is all above board, I think. Basically, but obviously McSweeney is the chief of staff at number 10 now, and he'd already, I think, left Labour Together because obviously he's been working for Starmer in some capacity the whole time he's been leader. So, Ashworth was just inserted in there as their fucking chief as soon as the election ended. And then, now he is heading over, and as soon as the election ended and he lost his seat, and now he is heading over, or he has headed over to the United States with other Labour staffers, including a Labour councillor called Izzy Langer, who I believe served in the IDF.
Yes, I remember seeing that.
Yeah. He's now over there advising Kamala on how to win, I guess, an election.
I mean, you lose your seat and you go over and it's like, time now to advise Kamala, and then she's plummeting in the polls, is neck and neck with an open fascist, and you're just like, Ashworth, you've done it again.
What I thought was interesting was she answered some question on trans rights the other day, not to dredge up the Glinner affair again, but like
I'm shaking already.
Yeah. I'm sure he is too, just for various health related reasons. But yeah, she answered this question, and it was pure Starmer. It was just like, well, I think we have to abide by the law. It's like, oh, great, cool, thank you for taking that brave stance. And that is such a step back from how US liberals were handling that issue in the past, when it was all kind of positive, sunny vibes. But
I think it was because the trans issue, if you were to ask somebody, the trans issue, sorry I referred to it as that, but bear with me, but like over in the US, they would be like, no, Republicans.
For like Graham Linehan, like a mental issue.
Yeah. But like, if you were over in the US, they would be like, well, the Republicans hate that, so naturally, like, we're in favor of it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way it was seen.
Yeah.
Whereas over in the UK, where I unfortunately currently am, JK.
You don't like it, there's the door, mate.
You can fucking leave anytime.
Yeah.
But they kind of created like an intellectual strand of it, this kind of feminist sort of thing. Like, oh, that's where TERF comes from, this type of thing about like, like it became a weirdly grey issue, even though over in the United States it's kind of seen for what it is, where it's like, why the fuck do you care?
Yeah, especially when Starmer's talking about it. Very fucking grey.
They don't get much grayer. Yeah. Speaking of grey, Sue Gray.
Oh, yeah.
That was good. That was a good segue. Come on.
Yeah, she someone who's spent a lot of time in Ireland, as I understand it. It's kind of an accent there by accident. I don't know. It was just literally
just a holiday that kind of went out of control a bit. But she's back now. Don't worry. She's there during the 80s.
She's not
no more of that.
Back in the UK, not back in number 10. She's out of there now. She's replaced by a real Irishman.
Yes. That's what I wanted to bring up, because so like I suppose first, this is my reading on this sequence of events, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like Sue Gray, what we were referencing there, civil servant, took an unexpected career break in the 1980s to live in Northern Ireland, and then where she owned a pub with her husband, then came back, rejoined the civil service. I'm going to jump forward now. She then was responsible for like investigating Partygate.
Yeah.
And then condemned Boris Johnson. Like, I don't know what the result of that was.
It wasn't good for Boris Johnson.
It wasn't good for Boris. And then she became Starmer's chief of staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I have that right.
You've got it. You've got the trajectory bang on there. Yeah.
Yes. And then there was an Irishman who's kind of determined to destroy the left in all of its forms.
Yeah.
Who kind of joined forces with Starmer or whatever, and they basically. The reason I'm bringing up Sue Gray at all is because he recently, within recent weeks and a month or whatever, has replaced Sue Gray as a chief of staff. And this is previously, he's been kind of like, what would you call it? Like an elections sort of organizer?
Elections guru Nanak.
I really wanted to avoid saying that, but...
yeah, Guru McSweeney, very influential, obviously, on Keir Starmer. Yeah, I mean, you're right that he's joined forces with Starmer, because Starmer is kind of an empty vessel for the establishment to say, we need you to do this, this is what you can do to remain an important person. And he says, oh, okay then. Whereas McSweeney is a true ideologue. He is a hardline factional member of the right wing of the Labour Party. And that is his life's work, is to marginalise the left within the British Labour Party, and some might say to win power for the Labour Party from a centre ground position. But I think that's sort of incidental to his grand designs. So
great show.
I have no idea what that man will do with the levers of state power at his beck and call. It's
nothing good.
Yeah, he seemed to me as somebody very myopically focused on the internal workings of the Labour Party, but he must have some kind of vision of the world that inspires him to do that, which I would imagine is very different to my own.
So, just to say about the Irish media basically kind of just as venal, corrupt and partisan, but with an added element of sort of folksiness, which is often affected. The thing is that mainly people in Ireland do not know who Morgan McSweeney is. They do not really engage with British politics or know the ins and outs of it. Why should they, really? I mean,
come on,
not like I expected over here.
Failed state.
Or over in Ireland.
Second tier nation or whatever, if that.
What ends up happening is once somebody like that gets into power, it's like, oh, gosh, he's over in the big place, the big house. So here are some selections from Irish journalists, some headlines. Morgan McSweeney, the workaholic Irishman who built Starmer's Labour. That's written by Hugh O'Connell on June 1st, 2024 for The Times. He was the former politics editor, I believe, for the Irish Independent. Then now we're eventually going to get to the Independent, the Irish Independent, which is basically Fine Gael would be, I guess, our Tories. Yeah, they're like and the Independent is their paper. So we will get to them. They obviously have opinions on Morgan McSweeney. But the Irish Examiner is a paper from Cork, news outlet, I guess you could call it. So naturally, here are 3 headlines that they have written about Morgan McSweeney from 5th of July 2024. From West Cork to Westminster, meet the Macroom man who is Labour's election guru.
Very influential.
6th of October 2024, Cork man appointed as Keir Starmer's chief of staff. And then in 15th of October 2024, Fergus Finlay writes for them. Fergus Finlay, I discovered, used to be in Irish Labour. He was like an advisor to Dick Spring or something like that.
Dix. Is that a person? Dick Spring?
That's his name.
That's awesome. Mike Gates and
here.
Dick Spring should do speaking tours together.
Fergus Finlay writes, the most powerful Cork man in Britain has his first big challenge. So he goes into some detail there about shit, but this is the one that I want to get to by one of the biggest bollockses to ever write. Put pen to paper, Fionnán Sheahan. Now, Fionnán Sheahan, I'll just give you there's not really, he is probably the closest approximation to one of the Brits that would be on panel shows and their faces getting really red as they yell at somebody. There was a famous one earlier this year, I believe, where there was an artist called Spicebag who basically did a drawing.
Isn't that Paul Mason?
Or he did.
Has Paul Mason pretended to be Irish yet? For any reason.
That was the code name, Spicebag.
No, he went off on a sort of anti-Irish diatribe, didn't he, about Rebecca?
Really? Paul Mason?
Yeah, it was about Rebecca Long Bailey, but I think he said, no, it's okay, because my family are Irish myself, which will be, again, what I say if I make any anti-Irish jokes in this episode.
All right, I'm going to need to look that up later on and bookmark that.
I think it was related to the thing about, because she was a Catholic, and he was like, I don't want, the Vatican dictating our fucking Labour Party policy.
What a fucking thing to say. That is mental.
Yeah, but he is mental.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, yeah. But Spicebag had made this collage that was essentially, there was an illegal eviction, but there's a number of illegal evictions that take place all the time in Ireland. And because who gives a shit, the guards certainly don't. And the politicians don't either. But anyway, he just took a painting of a famine eviction and then put in the guards over that. And that was it. Just, put that out there in 2021, forget about it, grand. And then it resurfaced in 2024 because a Sinn Féin politician retweeted it. And of course the media were like, what are you saying about our precious guards? So they invited Spicebag on a panel to kind of discuss his artwork. And Fionnán Sheahan is just he's not the host of the show. He is just steamrolling the host of the show to like scream at Spicebag about like, you know,
kind of taking the role of like that guy on GB News who wears the bow tie, and he'll be like talking to fucking like Mizzy or something. He'll be like, I can't believe you do that. You are speaking in a threatening tone, like something like that.
Exactly. I was like, this needs to be brought up. This needs to be brought up. This is politically motivated art, is how he referred to it. And then Spicebag was like, well, I hope it is. I mean, we're on a panel show talking about politics.
Yeah,
you know?
what's wrong with politically motivated art?
I mean, and here's his face, just to give you context. I'm sending it in the chat.
Wow, yeah, okay. He looks incensed at whatever the fuck they're discussing.
That's him on that panel getting pissed off at Spicebag.
Okay,
he is fucking furious.
Yeah.
But anyway, his article. Yes, Prime Minister. Macron's own Morgan McSweeney becomes top aide in 10 Downing Street. Cork man who masterminded Keir Starmer's election success becomes Chief of Staff to His Majesty's government.
His Majesty's government. And, Jesus Christ.
I know.
I wonder, where do his sympathies lie on the whole unionism, independence thing?
Fergus Quisling here from Hornsby, Cosby, Quisling and Associates, ranked the top law firms in Ireland, wishing His Royal Highness King Charles III a very, very happy coronation day from all of his loyal former subjects on the island of the Republic of Ireland. We're all behind you, Chas. And I know Her Majesty's looking down on you with such pride at the man you've grown into these past few months. And in honour of the London Metropolitan Police arresting those peaceful protesters, I will be performing a citizen's arrest on any of my fellow islanders I see making snarky or snide comments about you or your family online today.
So yeah, I thought I'd read a bit of this and maybe you'd chime in and tell us when we're drifting away from reality.
Sure thing. Let's do this.
McSweeney's old-style sweet shop on Main Street in Macroom, County Cork is quite the political nursery, now boasting advisors to both the Taoiseach and the UK Prime Minister amongst its past pupils. An Irishman is now the most senior political appointee in His Majesty's government. The appointment of Morgan McSweeney as the Chief of Staff to the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer will put the shop back in the spotlight. The departure of Sue Gray, I think he spelled her name wrong. How do you spell Sue Gray?
It's it's G-R-E... I think it's G-R-A-Y. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
What has he got?
He's got E-Y the whole way down.
Yeah.
Spell check?
Yeah, I need some sub-editors at the fucking Irish Independent.
Independent. Who also had her Irish connections. What were they?
Come on, spell it out for us.
I love that, like, because a lot of when you're growing up, an Irish person also always has to be present at some of those pivotal moments of history. They have to find some sort of, like, because what happened is when they found Saddam Hussein, they were like, that was an Irish lad, actually. He was from Kerry.
Yeah, all the guys who are absolutely losing their shit, like in a positive way, they're very happy that Morgan McSweeney has got the top job in His Majesty's government, apart from like Prime Minister, I guess. Like they must have been so fucking pumped when Joe Biden became president. I know he's not quite as Irish as Morgan McSweeney, but if anything, he's more proud and vocal about it.
No, they were obsessed. He came and visited Ireland, and like there was murals to him. There was like TV shows, like there was just so much stuff about him. He's from Ballina, don't you know? And it's like, but anyway, the mural. It's a really hideous mural, but it's been repeatedly defaced since October 7th. So there's not a lot of love from the majority of Irish people, but like those aren't the ones that get a microphone shoved in their face. The campaign guru was one of the most influential people in the UK, and is now arguably the most...
McSweeney, very influential. Sorry, I've made like 5 different references to this fucking meme that like A Up Lovely keeps posting of Keir Starmer wearing a turban talking about Guru Nanak.
I haven't seen that one.
Kush got me feeling like the Sikh Keir Starmer.
Arguably the most powerful unelected figure in the Downing Street government. Agree? Disagree?
Yeah. I mean, there's possibly more powerful Oh, fuck's sake. I was going to say unelectable, and I was like, oh, Starmer did win a general election this year. Now, that failed joke, but people can hear my process, you know, it doesn't always hit as hard as it sometimes does. Hang on, we've got something for this. It's
not as easy as it looks.
No, this is difficult stuff. I've forgotten the question. Oh, the most powerful unelected figure in the country. Deep state or something. I don't know. Yeah, they're powerful.
I would say most powerful unelected figure in the Downing Street. Why, it's His Majesty himself.
Oh yeah, good point, because it's
King
His
Charles.
Majesty's government. Exactly. I'd say it's Mike Gapes. He may have lost the seat of Ilford South in 2019, but his influence still resounds.
He's still the people's princess.
Exactly.
Since masterminding Startmer's election, they really do need sub-editors.
Have they made cuts at the Irish Independent?
I hope so. I hope it's on the way.
Yeah, fuck them.
Since masterminding Startmer's election and the transformation of Labour's fortunes, the 47-year-old Cork man has been at the heart of the action number 10 Downing Street as head of political strategy. But tensions with Grey emerged almost immediately, with Westminster gossip buzzing about McSweeney's desk being moved further away from the Prime Minister's office and an attempt to shut him out of the secure computer system.
This was so funny that McSweeney and Grey had this kind of like territorial pissing contest for months where they were just like moving McSweeney's desk, and then he was briefing the media against Sue Grey and sort of blaming her for, I think, all the like Starmer expenses row. And then eventually, I guess he won the war of attrition. He ground her down.
His day came, you know?
Yeah.
Chucky, I don't know how to do that in Irish. Chucky or his day.
I'd defer to you on this.
Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have outed myself that.
My old co-host had to teach me how to say Chucky Allah on the air. I didn't know. I was like, what are those words? It begins with C. What's,
he's in the Rugrats. You know what I'm talking about? That's like Joe Biden trying to do Irish.
That was when...
Yeah, you know what I mean.
We did an episode, the old co-host I'm talking about is our old co-host Laura. We did an episode on that film The Foreigner, where Jackie Chan goes to war with the IRA. You've got
Pierce Brosnan plays Jerry Adams.
He does indeed, yeah. I was going to say it's a terrific film, but I mean, I'm not sure if it's good or not. It's been a few years, but it was definitely incredibly fun to watch and talk about.
Reel Politik episode 51, come out ye Jackie Chan's link in show notes.
And it's mad because it's directed by Martin Campbell as well, and it's just like, you knew how to do this, man. What happened?
He did a bunch of Bond films, didn't he?
Yeah, he did GoldenEye and he did Casino Royale.
That's interesting because those are so different in tone, those two films. But
he reinvented the franchise twice and they were both bangers in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then he directed The Foreigner, and I also directed some other piece of shit for
I think he directs
Amazon.
I think he directs a lot of direct to VOD pieces of shit these days. But I'd say The Foreigner, it kind of combines the flash and pizzazz and razzle dazzle of GoldenEye with the gritty pseudo realism of Casino Royale.
Yeah, exactly. So no need to watch two movies. You just watch the one.
Exactly, it's got it all. And where's the fucking IRA plots in James Bond? Like, tell me that. Where's Jackie Chan in James? Why isn't James Bond Chinese? Riddle me that, folks. Riddle me that. Kush got me feeling like the Chinese James Bond. Yeah. So, have we got more article?
We do, but Grey became the centre of controversy, caught up in rows over pay and perks after it was revealed her salary was higher than that of the PM himself, and a furore over donations. Her presence became a distraction and she was sacrificed.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
They killed her on the altar of the rising sun. Bob Dylan quote from his JFK assassination song.
Really? Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah, I've got a couple of Bob Dylan Island things that I want to put to you after this, by the way. Just a couple of quick things.
What was it? Do you know Gilbert O'Sullivan?
I am somewhat familiar.
You know that he did what the fuck was it? The famous one about being alone. What is it?
Like a Rolling Stone?
No.
How does it feel to be on your own with no direction home? Like that's about being alone, isn't it? To be alone with
again
you?
Naturally. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you were saying he covered a Bob Dylan song.
No, he didn't. Sorry. No, what I was meant to say is that he wrote a song about 9/11 and he did it in that Bee Gees style, like early Bee Gees style that he does. And I've just always been looking for an opportunity to talk about that song.
I love 9/11 songs.
I know. Have you seen that podcast that Chris Wade did, and introducing?
Yeah.
And then they did one about 9/11 songs.
That's
a very
fun
good
podcast.
show.
Some of my favorites off the top of my head, Rules by the Wu-Tang Clan, where Ghostface Killer's like, who the fuck knocked them buildings down? Who the man behind the World Trade Massacre? Step up now. What is it? Something like, blah, blah, blah. Is you insane, bitch? Fly that shit over my hood and get blown to bits. Just off the top of my head, but yeah. Oh no, and then Ghostface is like, he says to Bin Laden, he directly addresses Bin Laden. He's like, no disrespect. That's what he clarifies, but that's where I lay my head. It's like, all right, like I fuck with you, Bin Laden, but you come for New York, you're encroaching on Ghost's territory,
Yeah. But Grey became under controversy. Grey is gone, and McSweeney now takes full control, viewed by some as the saviour of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Just going to leave that there for you to come in there. He is credited with being a driving force in the transformation from the devastating defeat under Jeremy Corbyn to extraordinary victory.
From the devastating lack of support for the mass murder of children to the good support for that.
McSweeney wrote the handbook on taking on the far right in British politics.
The far
what
right?
in the world?
Wait, what? Where's he
that really came out of
from?
nowhere.
I mean, he definitely wrote the fucking modern day handbook for taking on the far left, but are we attributing fucking what? I mean, the far left, like people like me.
Yeah. Grey's gone now and it takes full control handbook. Oh yeah, sorry, that's why we got distracted. McSweeney wrote the handbook on taking on the far right in British politics. Citation needed.
Yeah,
and was instrumental.
The centrist version of the Anarchist Cookbook.
Yeah. And was instrumental in taking back control from the hard left in his own party.
The hard left.
So this is in the Irish sense of the word. Like many a cute Cork man, he keeps them all guessing. Cute means shrewd, basically.
Okay.
Or like a bit of a chancer, or somebody who's... Yeah, like many a fucking hot Cork man.
To be fair, he looks all right for 47. Like, I mean, that's unfathomably old to me. Obviously, I'm 17 years younger than that, a lifetime basically. But he doesn't look that bad. He's I guess in the right.
No, actually, now they mention it,
the right light. You could call him cute, maybe.
Have you ever heard his voice?
I heard that call "Hey Up Lovely" made to him, where he was like, "Who is this?" It was like Liam Neeson, like, "I have a highly specific set of skills." Like, fucking, that was more Clint Eastwood. Sorry, voice. You goddamn.
I never knew that he. Did he actually ring Morgan McSweeney, or is he just doing a little
he did.
video?
No, people, because people just send him people's phone, politicians' phone numbers and stuff.
Never even explained who A Up Lovely was.
Well, I think he prefers to keep it shrouded in a little bit of mystery. It's definitely not me. I know I'm talking about this guy, but if I had 40,000 followers on Twitter, it would be over for you bitches. I'd have enough money to buy all the weed I wanted to. So no, it's not me.
Hello, is this Morgan McSweeney?
Who's this?
Sorry, I was just calling to see if you knew anything about Keir Starmer having an extramarital affair and ejaculating inside his mistress. It led to a pregnancy. Hello? Morgan?
What What's your name?
Sorry?
What's your name?
My name? Hello?
A political insider in Westminster told the Irish Independent, "He's a strange fish. He wouldn't be the friendliest. He's fairly taciturn. He wouldn't exactly kill you with conversation."
But he would kill you, like, by just, like, coming up behind you and slitting your throat in a dark Westminster alleyway.
Yeah, because you talked about making water public.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
He's one of those people you'd be talking to, and after a few minutes you'd realise you're doing all the talking and he's saying nothing.
Yeah, he's not noting down all your opinions for future use, like, against you.
Yeah, exactly. He's not universally popular with Labour MPs, but that goes with his job. He has to take difficult decisions that not everyone will be happy with.
It's like this week, the difficult decisions, like, so, should we serve the rich or the poor with this policy? Who knows what they'll decide on that one?
One of the difficult decisions of which he always makes a specific decision.
Exactly.
Like, in the benefit of...
Like, do we stand up to the oppressive might of the British state this time? Haha, you kidding? Almost had you there.
He projects the air of a political hard man.
I don't think he's that hard. Maybe cute, but not hard.
He's a little cute, but he's not hard.
Yeah, he's not. He's wanna be hard man. Although he did, I don't know, sound pretty scary on that phone call with A.Up Lovely. Where he was like, A.Up Lovely was like, "It's true, Starmer's spunked into some woman's pussy or something." And then like Morgan McSweeney is just like, "What is your name? What is your constituency, Labour Party?" Like, I'm not
Maybe
doing
all the years. Instead of the years being on his face, they're in his voice now. It was very. He doesn't look 47.
It was very Clint Eastwood. Yeah, like get off my lawn. Like I used to stack fucks like you miles high in Londonderry. Because he'd say Londonderry, I obviously wouldn't.
He would say Londonderry. Yeah. You got it.
It's not me.
You call yourself, but you got it.
No. That was purely intentional. I would never.
I know.
I would never.
I'm not calling you. While Roy Keane's blunt football analysis enthralls and infuriate fans across the water, McSweeney also retains a light Cork accent, but is more softly spoken than his fellow countrymen. No, he's not. We've just established
not according to that phone call, yeah.
The image in Westminster is from central casting of The Thick of It, the foul-mouthed British comedy he explains what The Thick of It is.
It's just like an episode of In the Thick of It.
Yeah, it's exactly like the famous In the Loop Thick of It.
Yeah.
With Malcolm Tucker and his famous, effing and jeffing, his F fucking and jeffening. I'm trying to make compact swear the fake swears that I just did there.
Jeff a fucker, something.
Yeah, his F twiddling, jeffing, whatever.
Yeah. Let's move on.
We're fading fast, folks. I don't know how much more of this is. This is quite a fucking long article, which I should have read before I went. Well, I've looked at the image in Westminster's potential casting take of it. Far from it. Back home, McSweeney is described as hardworking, conscientious, and dedicated to his family. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's what anyone's political allies would say about them to the media.
Are you telling me that he's not a complete piece of shit to his family? Yeah. What the hell?
Well, not that we know of. According to the official story.
None that'll fucking step up. Having worked his way up through the ranks of the Labour backrooms, he knows the party inside out. Growing up in the picturesque market town of Macroom in northwest Cork, politics was in his veins, but it was blue, not red blood. They'd be dyed-in-the-wool Fine Gael people. They'd be very decent people, a local party activist said. So like I said, Fine Gael are our Tories, and so he's saying it's actually quite a surprise that he's in the most right-wing version of the Labour Party that's ever existed.
Yeah, well, you got a lot of people on like the right wing of the Labour Party whose family have these kind of backgrounds in conservative politics, and then being on the rightmost flank of the broad left is like their form of, staking out their own, if
Yeah,
not
exactly.
outright rebellion, then certainly kind of staking out their own political path to their parents.
Yeah. There's all this fucking bullshit about, you know, his aunt was here and his father was here, and you know, and they're just going real into his family were supporters of Michael Creed, the Fine Gael TD, who's now retiring, and his father before him. Morgan's cousin solicitor Claire Mongovin is an advisor to Taoiseach Simon Harris, and before that worked for Leo Varadkar in government buildings. Again, these are all Tories. She is highly regarded by party colleagues in Fine Gael. Auntie Evelyn still runs McSweeney's, an old-style sweet shop on Macroon Main Street, which has had deep connections to the community for 80 years now. When he returns home, Morgan heads down to the shop to catch up with family. He was home with his young son just a few months back. Whatever.
Great,
I don't even know why I'm reading this.
Who'd have thought that, 30 years ago, we, the nation of Ireland, would be sitting here today in the corridors of British power?
Yeah. And, and he comes from a very conservative background, and it's very unusual that he'd go over there and join the Labour Party, isn't it?
Yeah,
and,
as I established, extremely unusual. Definitely not the backstory of, like, half the MPs in that Change UK book. But their parents were Conservatives, and they ended up as basically Conservatives.
This guy has so many more words to say about this. Will I cut this short?
What about like his politics? Does it say like, and he loves Israel, by the way? Anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
He rooted
I know
out
that,
left-wing anti-Semitism from Corbyn's depraved Labour Party.
Despite being steeped in politics, McSweeney showed little enough interest growing up and was more into Cork hurling and supporting Liverpool. Skipping ahead, the outsider became the party insider. Wait, where is this? McSweeney joined Labour, having seemingly been inspired by the Good Friday Agreement under Tony Blair. He studied politics as a mature student at Middlesex University, and his first job with Labour was at the reception desk at head office in Millbank near Westminster. The outsider became the ultimate party insider, working his way up through the ranks with a hard graft on the campaign trail.
I just don't think he's that much of an outsider. Like he comes from Ireland. Like, yeah, so what? Like that's not like
exactly.
that. There's plenty of people from like migrant communities and so on in the Labour Party. So it's like, big deal. He's a guy who's been ensconced in like the so-called mainstream of the party for like as long as he's fucking breathed, and we're supposed to think that he's this radical outsider shaking things up.
Now we're actually cool. It's different when we do it. We went over and built New York.
Yeah, Joe Biden. He was there when they built New York. The hands that built the country, the shaky, papery hands that built the country.
So, like, for some reason I was reminded of that thing that he said in 2020 during 2021 St. Patrick's Day.
If you ain't voted for Uncle Joe, you ain't even Irish. Is you even an Irishman, bruh? If you ain't voting Joe.
If he said was, let me look it up. He said, my Aunt Gertie gave the best back massages, and no disrespect to the Greeks, but she also made the best rice pudding.
What? Is rice pudding a Greek thing? You're saying no disrespect to the Greeks, but she also something about being gay. I don't know.
So he goes, he could have seen election politics. He even co-wrote a book on how to beat the BNP.
So did he work for Margaret Hodge then? Did he advise her campaign in like Barking and Dagenham or whatever it was, where she beat Nick Griffin by adopting his housing policies?
He says he's in Barking, so yeah.
Well, McSweeney is apparently now advising. He's put out a memo advising Labour MPs that they need to like get tough on immigration. Again,
really?
Yeah. Well, he obviously managed Starmer's 2020 leadership campaign alongside Jenny Chapman and some others. But he published, that's a name who Irish listeners may not be familiar with. She's the one Starmer fucked. But basically, he wrote this series of, over 10 pledges that Starmer won the leadership on, and they were all like, Jeremy Corbyn's great and we love socialism. And one of them was like, defend migrants' rights and defend free movement. And obviously McSweeney, literally the guy who came up with that shit, is now advising Labour MPs like, you gotta basically do the Farage thing. You gotta just say what he's saying.
He's also a migrant. So,
he's a migrant, so it's his lived experience, and I've really got no right to contradict him. Yeah, you're right.
Even got a book, The Collapse of the So-Called. Okay, he really jumps ahead here, actually. Taking on every senior role in Labour's headquarters at Millbank, he became an increasingly influential figure. The party was tearing itself apart in the post-Blair era. Labour's performance in 2019 under Jeremy Corbyn was its worst since the 1930s.
Skip 2017. Exactly, yeah that never happened. The election that never happened. Yeah.
Winning a mere 202 seats as it handed Boris Johnson a landslide Conservative victory.
As you recall, the Labour Party, they were a mere 202 seats. They were wiped out forever. The worst result that any major party has ever got in history. It was just Labour were dead. And then Keir Starmer brought them back. They, literally, it was a Lazarus-like resuscitation.
No, he made the desert bloom.
Yeah, exactly. He made the desert of a fucking windswept, empty Labour Party once again prosperous and thriving. It's interesting, the sort of mythology that sustains Starmerism, isn't it? The foundational lie that Jeremy Corbyn did some shit that no one really understands to do with disciplinary processes, and so we have to murder Palestinian children now to make up for that.
Exactly. Starmer's election will mark the culmination of a 10-year project of McSweeney's, who watched the ideological faction fighting of the Corbyn leadership damage Labour's vote-gathering potential.
Yeah, again, 2017 didn't happen. The largest
2017 didn't happen,
since
but
45.
He's like, this is McSweeney's project was to kind of quell ideological faction fighting that ruined the Corbyn
Labour
leadership.
Unelectable.
And it's like,
McSweeney himself admits, he admits in documents from the time, presentations he did and so forth, he says, I'm actually very worried about Jeremy Corbyn winning, and that's why I'm doing this, because I don't want Labour to take government in this form. So that's not what McSweeney himself, that is not his perspective on it, that, oh no, Labour is becoming unelectable because of this, so I'd love socialist policies, but we need to change to win. No, it was that if we win under this politics, which is not my own, that would be a disaster.
During that era, he was a founder and director of Labour Together, a group that sought to unify the various wings of the party, or at least have them...
A group that sought to scam various rubes within the party into getting involved in a right-wing effort to put the party back in the hands of the deep state in the City of London.
Or at least have them pulling in one direction and reconnect with the voters.
Pulling on Tony Blair's dick.
Laying the groundwork for a takeover of the Labour Party, the group raised money, did research on the members, and some say landed on Starmer as the most viable leadership candidate.
Yeah, they did research on the members. They were like, okay, this is the lies we have to tell them. This is the bullshit we have to tell these fucking rubes to trick them into electing a right-wing leadership.
However, Labour Together also landed in hot water with the UK ethics watchdog over undeclared donations of £730,000.
Yeah, a trifling amount. We've just all got that down the back of a sofa, just kind of money sloshing about. And that's not even the half of it as well. That's just the shit they got caught for.
I love that and it's sandwiched in between this thing, because the next line he just moves on to McSweeney became campaign director for Starmer and and it was like, what about that money?
That shit under the carpet. Yeah, exactly. It's like the amount of like dark money sloshing about on the right wing of the Labour Party is insane. As this kind of donor scandal has shone a light on the fact that there's a lot of kind of quid pro quo. There's a lot of kind of slapping on the back. You know, you slap my back, I'll slap yours. Grease my palm kind of thing going on.
Actually reminds me of squid, and squid reminds me of an octopus. So I think you were actually dealing in tropes.
I was actually. That was my intention with that comment. Yeah, it was.
But they like. What was it? I just remember in the bit where they were interviewing Starmer about Lord Ali buying him all this stuff. Oh no, sorry. What was it? It was when he like stayed in the house. Remember, it's like, oh, my son was studying for his exams. You want me to stay in my own house?
And then he was like, actually, no, it was me who was staying there. Just don't ask any questions about why I lied about it the first time.
But then they ask him like, well, was that Lord Ali again? And he just goes, of course.
Yeah, of course. Like, who else is it going to be? Well, I don't know. One of your other fucking billionaire donors. You do have others. Like, it's kind of like, yeah. You know, poor Keir, he just needed that F shack, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure, she's not allowed in his actual house. What was he meant to do?
Yeah, exactly.
He's stressed a lot, okay, on the campaign trail.
Careful, that's what they killed shippers for. That's what they bound shippers for saying.
However, Labour together landed and whatever, blah, blah. Since then, sorry. McSweeney became campaign director for Starmer with an aspirational 10 pledges for the party members being pivotal.
Aspirational, yeah. A made up 10 pledges, a dishonest 10 pledges. I can think of various kind of other words I would use in the place of aspirational. And that also implies that they were just like some Tory pro-capitalist bullshit about appealing to people's aspirations when they were not. They were like reheated Corbynism.
But it's also like, when you pledge something, that's not an aspiration.
Yeah.
Why would those two things? It's a contradiction in terms. It's like these things that I pledge to maybe do.
Yeah, these things that I aspire to do is a bit different. Like, I aspire to do a lot of things. I aspire to have a podcast bigger than Joe Rogan. It hasn't quite turned out that way yet.
Since then, he has been the key aide to the new leader. During the BBC TV debates, now we're nearly done. I'm sorry about this.
By the way, I've set my sights a little lower. As long as we have a podcast that's bigger than the One Decision podcast with Richard Dearlove, former head of MI5, and Leon Panetta, former head of the CIA. As long as we're doing, skating a little above them, then I feel like my head is above water.
During the BBC debates, yes, a member of the audience put it to Starmer that his strings are being pulled by senior figures in the party.
Anti-Semitic. That's a trope. That's a despicable trope.
They're dealing in tropes.
Kick them out of the Labour Party. I don't think you realise the tropes
you're dealing in.
No. I usually do as well. Like I said, it's usually very intentional. But these guys, they're just not paying attention. The stuff about pulling the strings, string pulling, the trope stuff, has just reminded me of... one of my favourite Irish people, Van Morrison, with his 2021 song "The Long Con," where he says, "I'm a targeted individual. Got to get to the bottom of who's pulling the strings." And then his backing singers go, "Who's pulling the strings? Who's pulling the strings?
Who's pulling the strings? Pulling the strings. Pulling the strings."
It's one of the funniest songs I've ever heard, and that is the same double album that features classic songs like "They Own the Media" and "Why Are You on Facebook."
I know we were joking about tropes, but that does actually sound like tropes.
Well, you'll have to listen to it and see. He claims it is about Boris Johnson's (UK) government.
How many brackets are they, by the way? Where was I with this fucking thing? Okay, we're nearly there on the home stretch. Good God. I don't like the fact that he spilled so much ink about this fucking guy that nobody in Ireland knows about. It just goes to show, like, He's like, this is amazing. This is fantastic. He's in the real world where they have real politics.
Yeah,
not like
real
fucking here.
Exactly, real politics.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
And also real politics.
Yeah, they've got that in the real world, that's for sure, on all good podcast apps and on Patreon and on YouTube now as well. So come on, let's get to the end of this.
Let's
this
fucking
shit.
do this. I'm sorry. I was going to strangers are being pulled by senior figures. If anything, there is a debate over whether McSweeney created Starmer by identifying him as the leader who could purge Labour of the Corbyn era, make the party credible, and return it to power.
I mean, well, I think he did sort of pick Starmer. He sort of anointed him. Yeah.
And also, like, to be like, there's a shadowy cabal of unelected people who are like pulling Starmer's strings. And isn't that great? He's Irish. You know,
the Irish conspiracy. This is what Paul Mason warned us about.
He was trying to tell us.
He didn't understand social democracy correctly from a Marxist perspective, or he would have known that it was just an Irish plot to outsource abortion law to the Pope.
Yeah. After Starmer became leader with McSweeney behind him, there was sorry about that, like suggested pause there.
Fucking
there
each other up the arse. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? This one thing we hate in this podcast is subtext, okay?
Yeah.
There was a noticeable cull of Corbynists and the installation of loyalists with in an Irish context to say that.
Yeah.
With candidates and
loyalists
activists.
in more fucking ways than one, I'm sure. Yeah.
With Sue Gray.
Well,
with
he's ginger, isn't it? So he's already sort of bringing the Orange Order into things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With candidates and activists ruthlessly moved aside if they step out of line, McSweeney watched his ally achieve what only 3 other Labour leaders have done in 124 years by winning an outright majority in Parliament, taking a 174-seat simple majority and a total of 411 seats. But yeah, he does actually. I was going to see does he actually mention the votes? And he does. But however, Labour's gains were disproportionate, winning 211 more seats than the previous election, but 500,000 fewer total votes.
But us smart British political pundits know that is in fact by design. That is Morgan's genius, strategic mind at work again, because that, my friend, is voter efficiency. It's not having a very, very shallow majority that could collapse at the next election or at any time. No.
Yeah.
It's about putting your votes where you need them and only where you need them.
It is a very Irish thing, isn't it? Sorry, just that idea of like, just I only need a handful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I only need to win by... It only needs to be 51%. It doesn't need to be like 100,
Yeah,
it's
let's
like,
all get crazy here.
Feel like, be grand. The majority is easily overturned if Labour can't deliver, and that's McSweeney's task now. Jesus.
Yeah.
You anticipated what he was going to say. Fuck. His every utterance is watched by the British press, with even a like on social media generating headlines in the right-wing press.
Well, you can't see likes anyway, so it's bollocks. That's bollocks.
Yeah.
It's nonsense.
But also, like, it's not true, is it?
Yeah, no, I've never seen any article about his fucking likes on social media. I saw one about, like, that director, Sean Baker, apparently liked something that people are mad at him for.
I saw that.
But I don't know how they found that out. Is there like some kind of app where you can still look at people's likes on Twitter?
No, I think it was just they found it out before and they'd had the pictures and then they just came out now. One of them was about like Kyle Rittenhouse being innocent.
Oh dear. Oh no. I like that guy's. Not Kyle Rittenhouse. I like Sean Baker's last film as well, the porn star one, Red Rocket. That was good.
Yeah. I haven't seen any of them. I have to. The target on his back just got bigger, but the immigrant from Cork, notice it, was ranked number 1 on the New Statesman magazine's Left Power list as arguably the UK's most consequential and unelected political operator. That's the end of the article.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, the New Statesman seal of approval has been bestowed upon him, so I think that they have very successfully made the case that this is a great man. One
on the left,
towering figure of history. Yeah, the most powerful man on the left, the number 1 figure on the entire broad left in Britain. And all that with not even being British, as you say. Very, very impressive. I'm sure he thinks that like the entirety of Ireland should be part of the UK.
He's British now. You can have him. We don't want him anymore.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's like Graham Linehan.
I'm going to call up Israel and see if they want to take him alongside Bryan Singer and Brett Ratner.
Sorry, I know this is a stupid question, but he is very pro-Israel.
Oh yeah,
he's like a Zionist.
He absolutely is. Yeah, he spent time in Israel. In fact, I think did some stuff at a kibbutz, and obviously he's not Jewish or anything. This is purely I identify with this heavily militarized ethno state kind of thing.
The fawning Irish press about Morgan McSweeney, nobody's any more enlightened after having read any of these articles, I would wager. And they just keep getting away with it. It's terrible.
Well, I'm certainly not any more enlightened after having that read to me.
Yeah.
Not through any fault of your own, but I don't feel I gained much insight on McSweeney and McSweeneyism from that article.
Yeah, McSweeneyism.
Starmerism isn't a real thing. Like I say, he's an empty vessel. Starmerism is just like, protecting paedophiles from the full weight of the law and stuff like that, and Israel. So again, paedophiles. So I just wanted to ask you as an Irishman. There's two lyrics I've just thought of on Bob Dylan's latest album, 2020's Rough and Rowdy Ways, which he's currently touring in Europe at the moment. He's still doing his tour for his 2020 album.
I didn't know he was still touring.
Dylan will never stop touring. He will tour until he dies. He does like 100 shows a year, and it's clearly just his favourite thing to do. But basically, there's a couple of lines on, and he's been on this tour. He's still touring his album that came out in 2020. Obviously, he couldn't play any gigs in 2020, but since 2021 he has been solidly touring this record, and he's playing 9 of the 10 songs from the album every night, the exception being the 17-minute song about JFK, which is a shame because that's a classic track. But
17 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like that would dominate the show if he played it. That's it's a heavy endeavor to perform that song. But there's a couple of lines on the album. On the very first track, I Contain Multitudes, he sings, in addition to great lines like, I'm just like Anne Frank and Indiana Jones, and then British Bad Boys, the Rolling Stones. He says, follow me close, I'm going to Balin Ali.
Follow me close, I'm going to Balin Ali.
Balin Ali.
Am I right in thinking that that's a place in Ireland where there was a massacre? The British troops killed a load of people.
Balin Ali. Oh, Balin Ali.
Yeah.
Balin Ali.
It's a guy called Balin Ali. So Middle Eastern guy. No, I'm just.
And he loves Keir Starmer. He just likes buying him clothes.
Yeah. That's his first name is Balin. Because he's always balling. He's having being rich and having a good time.
Balin Ali. I know I'm going to sound like somebody is going to be screaming listening to this, and they're going to be like, "Yes, of course, you not remember." But I'm just so unknowledgeable about that stuff. James would know for sure.
Well, you know what? I'll go on Genius. The website Genius. Yeah. Balin Ali. Reference to I'm sorry, I'm going to fuck this up so badly. It basically looks like Anton O'Rafferty, but it's spelt in a very Irish way. Reference to Anton O'Rafferty. Sorry, I'm not going to try. A poem. Mari ni Edin, translated as The Lass from Balin Ali. The poem was a favourite of Dylan's friend Liam Clancy of the Clancy Brothers. Ooh. Clancy can be heard reciting it in an English translation in this video. So there you go. It's more of a folk music tradition kind of thing.
Yeah, there's certainly an overlap. There was one thing while you were saying that as well, where I was thinking of he did a cover of Arthur McBride, which is I don't know the history of it, but it's like kind of an old folk song that I believe was brought back by what's his name, Paul Brady, and that's a gorgeous version of that song.
Oh, me and my cousin one Arthur McBride,
But anyway, yeah, I'm sorry to say this. I don't know if I am the biggest fan of Bob Dylan, of Robert Zimmerman.
Oh, damn. Well, his name is legally Robert Dylan, so no need for the Zimmerman. He's successfully anglicised his name.
No, Jim. But there's songs that I like by him, but the version that he did of Arthur McBride was one of the most punishing versions of that song I've ever heard.
Me and my cousin, one Arthur McBride, as we were walking down by the seaside.
What's the song about? Because maybe he was trying to punish people. Is it about murder? There's a lot of folk songs in which people get murdered left, right, and centre.
No, it's just a song about these two guys walking along a beach, and then a British soldier comes up to them and says, "Do you want to join?" And they're like, "No, thanks." and then the soldier takes great offense to this, and they just beat the shit out of the soldiers and then run away. And that's the song, and it's very good. It's like, they're just it happens on Christmas Day. So, like, I saw a comment on YouTube refer to it as the Die Hard of Christmas songs.
Yeah.
Which is very funny. I think so, yeah. I'm just taking somebody else's joke and then being like, yeah. It's not funny like you'd laugh out loud, but it's funny like, oh, yeah, that is funny. Yeah. And then I was expecting a laugh, and I was like, why would you expect a laugh? And then get defensive, and I was like, well, I find it fucking funny, so I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I've done that many times on the podcast, get pissed off when they don't laugh at my hilarious jokes.
Yeah.
I've got one more.
Was there another one?
Yeah, I've got one more of these little Irish adjacent Dylan lyrics from the last album. So this is on the song Goodbye Jimmy Reed. Jimmy Reed was a famous American blues singer. And the first verse, it goes, "I live on a street named after a saint. Women in the churches wear powder and paint. Where the Jews and the Catholics and the Muslims all pray. I can tell a proddy from a mile away."
Yeah.
So Dylan's out there
we love it, folks.
Doing Irish sectarianism. Bob Dylan has defected to the Irish Republican Army.
I live on a street named after a saint. Women in the churches wear powder and paint. Where the Jews and the Catholics and the Muslims all pray. I can tell a proddy from a mile away.
I just put on this Dylan version of Arthur McBride in the background while we wrap up our conversation, and it's I quite like it, but his voice was really weird in the early 90s. It was really when he turned 60, it got a bit deeper and got more palatable to me, but his voice was in the 90s is very kind of sort of braying. I don't know what the expression would be. Kind of like a goat. I'd say Dylan in the 90s sounded kind of like a goat. And you could make of that what you will. He is the goat, but in the 90s he sounded like a goat for a time.
Man, I am so sorry. I did not realize how long I kept you. Thank you so much for being on here.
No, that's okay, man. I wanted us to finish your reading series, and then, I had to tell you about the Bob Dylan stuff.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's been a real pleasure.
No problem, man. Peace. You have a good day.
That's the end of the horrifying free bit. Behind the paywall over on patreon.com/CelticLigers, James returns from the dead to talk about Irish stuff such as Leo Varadkar on a podcast looking like he's in hell. Micheál Martin on another podcast getting pissy with the group chat over mild pushback that he's a warmongering prick. Then they finish up talking about a child's drawing of an elephant. Why? Well, it's a Halloween surprise.